Now we're talking.
All right, we're here. Hello to anyone out there who might tune in tonight or in the future. I'm Colin Blanchette. I'm here with Alex Eklund. He is my partner in crime when it comes to putting out a couple of zines and various offshoots. Canon is the main deal, but that is not the reason we're here today. We're here to talk about Die With Your Mask On number 3, where we did the 100 best superhero comics of all time. 11 of us made lists. Alex and I were two of those 11, and we put them all together and made a master list. So the link should be in the description below, hopefully, if I did it correctly, for anyone watching. Otherwise, Alex, what did you think about this idea when it was first proposed?
No, I got really excited because I'm not someone that tends to love long lists, but the idea and the challenge of creating a list sounded really fun to me. And I think one of the things we talked about was what's going to end up being like. Is it going to be a bunch of old comics? Is it going to be a bunch of new comics? I think the thing that excited me the most was what's the surprise? What are we going to end up with? Knowing the age group that a lot of us are in, I was curious how it would skew. It skewed, I think, in the direction that I was kind of expecting, but also I really loved looking at all the lists, and I got really inspired. And that's one of the things I love about lists is just the inspiration of oh man, I've always heard about that, but I wanted to read it. Now I got an excuse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy making your list?
Yeah, I mean, we talk so much. I think I was probably the person that had the hardest time making my list. It was one of those things where when I was thinking about making my list, I was superheroes. I love superheroes. And the thing that I told you about so often is oh no, I love superheroes, but I don't always love comic superheroes. And it was so interesting for me to realize my touchstones were the old animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the animated X-Men from back in the 90s, the Batman animated series, and then subsequently a lot of the newer stuff. And I love random comics, but I really love random supernatural superhero comics, which we often talked about oh, is John Constantine a superhero or not? And I was well, I guess he's kind of not, but he kind of is. And so a lot of the people that I wanted to use didn't make the list because it was I was so skewed in a different direction than most people.
Yeah, I remember, when we were early on, when we were talking about what is a superhero comic, and I had said, I think we'll have a big tent here. Anyone can vote for anything they want, but of course we can all just define it however we all see it. And you brought up Sandman, and I said, well, Sandman's not a superhero comic, and you said, well, Batman's in it, and I didn't have a retort to that. There was nothing to really say back. And someone did vote for Sandman. I don't think it was you, but someone did. But you're right. I mean, I went through some phases with this list. I thought at first it was going to be pretty wacky. Then at first I thought it'd be very conventional, that I would be one of the weirder ones. Yeah. And then I thought, wow, this is going to be really a wacky list, and God only knows what it's going to shake out to. And then it sort of reversed course again, and we ended up with a lot of familiar names at the top. Yeah. And of course throughout the whole list, but certainly at the top. And there's some ones that people might not pick, obviously, to be on there that might be out of left field. How happy were you with the final list?
I mean, I was very happy with the final list. Again, the thing that we talked about so much was no one voice overriding all the other voices. And I do think it's a really nice collection of all the different voices that were a part of the group. like there's definitely a couple things that like I'm a little heartbroken didn't make the list because I thought they were really interesting. Um, like I thought My Hero Academia was like a really interesting pick we could have done because I think it's a really interesting kind of like modern superhero take from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you remember the suggestion one of my other friends gave me that you were like, I don't know about that one?
Wasn't it One Piece or something like
One
that?
Piece,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
been crazy, man. Like I talked to you about this earlier, but like since um we talked about it, I've seen a lot more One Piece, and like I'm more and more convinced that my other buddy was right. Like it's pirate superheroes. It's really interesting. Um, I think since making this list, my eyes have been like, or I've been just really thinking about like what makes a superhero. Um, and like I think it's really like the superpowers, but it's also like that willingness to go above and beyond to serve other people. And I've been thinking a lot more about like what constitutes it, and when that has made this list process a lot of just like pure fun for me, just to think about what all is happening there.
Yeah, I've had similar. It haven't been the same thoughts, but a similar sort of reevaluation of how I look at them.
Mhm.
I still think I have a pretty traditional view of what superhero comics are. It's
Yeah,
hard to shake that. I don't know that I even want to shake it,
yeah,
but you're right though. When you start thinking like the Turtles, GI Joe, Transformers,
hmm
James
hmm
Bond. I mean, you really almost anything that is a genre that has
hmm
any action in it. It has someone who does something special. You can pretty much make that argument. It's not. Is there really much of a difference between Batman and Indiana Jones? I mean, there is, but you know, not really in terms of how I think people uh, consume those, stories. Um, so besides My Hero Academia is an interesting one. Do you think that it
hmm
didn't make the list because of people not thinking it's a superhero comic, or because of just people having not read it?
I think of the people group that made our list, I definitely think it was not reading it because I
Mhm.
was the only person that put it on my list, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
But again, like I didn't put One Punch Man on my list, but that's
Oh,
because like I don't feel as directly connected to that one, even though I was trying to make um I was really trying to like look outside of like the more traditional routes um that you would typically see.
yeah. We have a hello from this is Donald Rex, good guy, Charlton enthusiast.
Oh hell yeah.
Who has tuned in to several of these videos despite not being a superhero reader himself anymore. Um,
I mean,
which I
on that note,
appreciate.
I was gonna say I did go back and read some of the old Peacemaker comics, and
Oh yeah,
like they're fun. They're fun
Pete Morrissey.
comics.
Yeah, Pete
Hmm
Morrissey. How did this? Yeah. Um, well, they were action heroes, not superheroes. Uh, I think that was due
Freaking
to
esoteric.
yeah, that was due to I think DC and Marvel owning the trademark to superhero, though not because of them not being superheroes. Um,
Mhm.
what else disappointed you that didn't make the final list? Anything from your personal list that you were especially brokenhearted about?
Oh man. I think the My Hero Academia was a big one. Oh,
Mhm.
shoot, I should go back and look at my list again. I definitely know there was a couple things. Um, but yeah, it's just been like more thinking about like what's out there.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I know this is terrible television, but oh, I can't
That's all
reach
right.
it. Never mind. Oh no, I can. I can. Here, I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, looking
Colin,
at
why
your,
didn't this make the list? It's big. It's bold.
I know. I didn't vote for it. I'll admit. I did vote for Zot, but I didn't vote for that.
Oh, that's so
Um,
interesting. Oh, yeah, I forgot that. What about Zot makes you think it's a superhero story?
I mean, what about Zot doesn't make it a superhero comic? I mean, Scott McCloud thinks it's a superhero comic, so um, He wears a costume. He fights bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
He has villains. It becomes more of a soap opera as it
Mm-hmm.
evolves because that's where his interests lie.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of those that if this list had been made 20, 30 years ago, would have not just been on the list, it would have done really well. And I think
Interesting.
that's something I have thought about because of my immersion into the journal's old list,
Mm-hmm.
is thinking about things and when the timing of the list and
Mm-hmm.
how that relates to what makes it onto a list.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there were several superhero comics that I think for sure would have made it if this list had been made 20 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
40 years ago. There have been no brainers that would have just been in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there isn't any Silver Age DC on this list, not one thing. And that's would have been unthinkable if we had been making this list in the 90s. So I don't
Isn't
know.
isn't the
What's that?
Rishav Ghul stuff on there?
That's not the Silver Age, but yeah, that's
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I mean those age distinctions are pretty tired. I'm not really a big fan of those, but we generally kind of know what we're talking about when we bring them
Yeah.
up, and
Yeah.
that's why I use the terms like it's like using graphic novel or using comics. These are all imperfect terms that don't really
Mm-hmm.
mean much of anything anymore, but we just know they do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but so for someone your age, um, your points of reference would have just been so much different than even mine, and we only have
Mm-hmm.
like is it a 10-year, 8-year, something like that gap?
Yeah, about 10-year gap. Yeah.
10-year
No,
gap,
it's
yeah.
been so interesting. I mean, like through this process, um, the thing that's been crazy is to talk about like what your touch points are versus my touch points versus like when I was just referencing my friend who was like, "Oh, One Piece is clearly a superhero comic." He's about 10 years younger than me, and it's like he, like you might guess, skews a lot more towards the manga than he does like the Western comics.
Sure.
And it's so interesting how those touch points have shifted. And in 10 years, if we were to do this list, would we see more um, manga on there? I don't know. And would we see more openness to like different things? I mean, one of the things I was kind of surprised with is I think I was only one of two people or three people that voted for TMNT. Like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to ever go ahead and argue that it's like the best written comics of all time, but they were a huge touch point for me. But it was a little hard to determine like whether I was going to argue for like the Archie TMNT or the original TMNT.
Yeah.
So I just kind of put down TMNT. But yeah, like I remember my mom, of course, being one of those people that was like, "Oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! I got to go ahead and collect all these old comics." And like, I'm not quite the right age for the Eastman Lair Turtles comics, but my mom bought a bunch of them when they weren't quite as expensive, and I just remember like the covers blowing my mind, and just
Yeah.
like I read those long before I did Dark Knight Returns or anything like that. So like when I thought of like gritty superhero comics as a kid, those were the gritty superhero comics.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved that as a kid.
I was trying to think how many other people voted for the Turtles. I'm not even sure if there was a second voter.
I could have sworn there was someone else.
There might have been, but if there was, it was one more person.
Yeah, yeah.
In my quick glance, I'm not seeing. Though it's possible there could have been 2 votes and they could have not gotten enough points to even make our cutoff list.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of pretty amazing to think about something like the Turtles, which is ubiquitous. But I would imagine, like you said, the Archie's version might have actually been read more by well, people younger than me, even though I read it too, but
Mhm,
certainly people younger than me. Um,
mhm. I mean,
did
those oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead, please.
I mean, I'm gonna say something crazy. Like, I almost feel like those Archie TMNTs are the equivalent of like the old Spider-Man Ditko Lee comics. Because it's like there's so many characters being created in every single issue. It's a
Yeah,
wild time. And
that's
I
true.
really love that energy. Because I mean the problem with a lot of modern superhero comics these days is that you don't feel that rush of like, oh, anything could happen. A new character could pop up on any page. It's just like
Yeah,
we're going to either rehash or we're going to go ahead and uh, we're going to like create this like offshoot character that's basically a carbon copy of an old character, like
sure.
which we all hate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think the reason for that is that Eastman and Laird provided participation in any character you created. You got a piece of the toy, you got a piece of the character. Um,
Yeah,
and I'm sure that nowadays with Turtles comics, they're running. I'm sure they're not creating as many characters as they once were. Right? What would be the incentive if it's all just going to go to um, was it Paramount, Nickelodeon, whoever the hell owns
I
the
think it's
Turtles?
Nickelodeon. I think
Yeah.
Sophie Campbell honestly created a like again, I have not read Sophie Campbell's run yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I did hear that she made like a lot of new characters.
Interesting.
Um, which is exciting. Like I
Yeah.
understand that like there is like you're saying that incentive structure, like why make a new character? But it can be a dorky new character. It doesn't have to be fully original, but like that feeling of just like creative juice just being out there is so fun to read.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just going back and reading some of those old Archie comics and just being like, oh man, yeah. Like I remember as a kid, like this manta ray character is dumb, but I kind of love it.
Um, you did pretty well of your top 10. Actually, pushing it even further. So, of your top 14, the only thing that didn't make the list was you had at number 10. You had the Mad Magazine superhero parody work of Wally Wood.
Oh, I wish I'd got
Um,
back. That's something I feel is a travesty.
I remember you being pretty disappointed when it didn't
Mhm.
have the points. And you voted for it number 10, which means it got 90 points, which means it didn't get much support anywhere else.
Yeah.
Too bad. Um, what about that work spoke to you, if you don't mind my asking?
No, I mean like neither of my parents really read superhero comics, but I remember when the Tim Burton Batman movie came out. There was like a Mad Magazine special of like Batman stuff, and my mom picked me up that issue, and I remember going through it and just being like, a lot of this stuff isn't speaking to me, but I remember the Wally Wood just being like, oh my gosh, it's so well drawn. And then I
Mm-hmm.
remember my mom telling me, oh yeah, like I grew up with that. And I just think that there's something so evocative about that work. Yes, it's silly, but the craft is impeccable. It is legitimately funny. Some of it's, dated, but man, as a comic, Wally Wood, when he was firing on all cylinders, he was firing on all cylinders. Like I just recently picked up the old trade Marvel collection of his work, and I was just like, man, anything he did when he was in his heyday is just it's so well drawn. He's playing with form. He's trying all these different things. Um, yeah, I don't think as many people other than maybe Jack Kirby, touch as many genres and did them all as well. Because I mean, his sci-fi stuff looks amazing. His fantasy stuff looks amazing. His superhero stuff is fun, and I think that he started kind of like taking some of the standard superhero characters and like started making them his own, which I really love. Like, there's just nothing about his work I don't like.
Um, looking at your list, your personal list, I noticed
Mhm.
that there's two areas where I think you were the leader in, and one is manga, which we've touched on. You have
Mhm.
probably maybe five at least that are manga,
Mhm.
maybe more. Um, and you might have had the most new stuff, which
Mm.
I don't think is something I realized before. But looking
Mhm.
at your list, I mean, like you have Absolute Martian Manhunter
Mhm.
at number 99,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
that must be the newest thing anyone had on a list. That's currently going, right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, when I put it on my list, I think only 3 issues were out at that point in time, but, like, I could
gotcha.
already tell there was something cooking there. Um, and I know that now, like, it's, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Martian Manhunter are kinda like the ones that are really battling it out in terms of what people are revering from that line.
Mhm.
I mean, they're not perfect comics, but they're really fun, and I just, like it's really inspiring to see something that has so much energy. I can't remember if I put Little Bird on my list.
You did
I
number
did, yeah,
94.
and I love Little Bird. Like, I just the writing isn't the strongest, no, but just, like, the creative juices on the page are just like, oh, it just makes me feel like this is what superhero comics could be. I mean, of the superhero comics that are kind of, like, off the beaten track, I was so happy Prophet made it,
Mm-hmm. And did
even
well.
though yeah, it did really well. I was shocked.
Um, that's everyone's list. Yeah, the let's see, where did Prophet end up at? Number 50. So dead in
Okay.
the center. Not too bad.
I mean, that was the book that brought me back into Image Comics
Mm-hmm.
because I
Um,
remember. Oh no, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah, finish your thought, please.
Well, I was gonna say just shout out to Brett, who both of us really liked that worked at our local comic shop. Like it was either him or Kenshi. One of them put it in my hands and was like, "This is it," and I was like, "This is good."
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I started reading a lot more things, and it was a really really good moment in Image Comics.
Um, a title that's come up on a couple of these videos already, but you
Oh,
did
was
vote
that
for
New
it.
Frontier by Darwin Cook?
Now,
Was that the one?
I was probably going to leave that alone, but we can. At least you voted for it in the second half. So, um, no, you voted for House of
Oh,
X and Powers of X.
yeah,
Um, that was one that I almost kind of expected. I didn't. I haven't read it, so I'm not
yeah,
insulting it at all.
yeah.
Um, that was one I almost kind of expected to make the list, just because it seemed like so many people picked it up and checked it out.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
were you surprised that it didn't make the list? And well, then looks like maybe you're not that surprised. Why do you think it didn't make the list?
Well, the thing about it is, it's like I really like Jonathan Hickman as a writer. I also realize that a lot of his work, I think, is strangely enough of the moment. Like, I know both of us were talking about his Fantastic Four run, and I had subsequently read like a lot of his like later work, but I'd never gone back and read Fantastic Four. And I remember you saying that you thought it was okay, like it started strong and then didn't
Yeah,
go quite in the direction.
that's
And it was
correct.
really interesting for me to retroactively go back and read it because I feel like a lot of people were inspired by his work. And by the time I started reading it, I was like, this kind of feels already done. And so I really thought Hoxpox was really good. I came to it late. Like
Mm-hmm.
his run was over by the time I read it. Um, and the thing I will say is like I think Hoxpox as a like mini series is crazy good. I just think it's some of the most creative he's ever been. The illustrations are good. Like they're not incredible, but they're good. And the problem is that I think a lot of people kept reading, and because his vision kind of got hampered, and there was a lot of people that were hating what he was doing. I think Hoxpox, while it was such a strong start, and I think is a great miniseries, kind of got like swept under the rug because people kind of felt like, oh, it burned bright and then kind of burnt out. But on its own, I think it is really strong superhero comics. I think it's a lot better than his Fantastic Four run. And
Okay.
like as someone who grew up with like the X-Men animated series, like seeing Apocalypse, seeing Magneto, like seeing all these characters that were villains now in with the good guys, it was just such a great time. Like it really made me pumped. Um, but like a lot of people, I kind of like burnt out when I kept reading further. But on its own, what a great series!
Yeah, I think I hadn't even thought about Fantastic Four until you mentioned it, but that's another one that if we'd made this list 10 years ago, I bet it would have been on a bunch of lists.
Easily,
People were pretty excited about it. And um, yeah, I don't know if that's a Hickman problem or if it's just something that happens where the people are excited up front and then it peters out. Um, but
I honestly don't think it's a Hickman thing. I think it's like what I was saying. Like um, several of like the comics podcasts I've been listening to, they start talking about like all these people copying his like information style and adding those to their comics. Like I just feel like Hickman has a lot of really good ideas, and then people take them and then just make all of us sick of those ideas. And like I said, like Fantastic Four, it was good when I was reading it, but it wasn't anything I would say like, wow, this is incredible, because I'd already read some of it basically in other people's work.
um, how did you feel about the process? The you know, crafting the final list. I don't. There's no. The only there is honestly, I don't think there is a perfect way to make a list like this.
Yeah.
Normally, you might say, well, someone just goes on a pure point system, but even that proved tough, right? Because you had things where someone might vote for something that you could split into two or three different titles, or you might have people voting. Like Rick Veitch is a good example, where people voted for multiple parts of the King Hell Heroica, and we just smush those together basically to have one title instead of having to have Brat Pack fight Max Immortal fight
Yeah.
Boy Max Immortal. And I think all of our choices, I mean, I guess I'll say mine, I'll take responsibility. I made most of those choices. And then talk to you and Chris Russ about them. But it's almost impossible to have a clean mathematical formula when you're dealing with stuff like this. You'd have to be doing a list of graphic novels, like discrete books that are all themselves.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about how the process played out? We ended up with a list that nobody would be 100% happy with. Hopefully they wouldn't be 100% unhappy with. So far, everyone has said they were pretty happy. So yeah, what do you think about the process, the final process that you were a part of?
I mean, I really enjoyed the whole process, and I know, Colin, you're kind of like benching this in terms of like us trying to do the best we could. And Colin, I think you did a really good job because, like, again, you've been part of a couple lists now that other groups have put together, and you really thought about like, ooh, like this didn't quite work when I did this list. This didn't quite work when I did that list. And I mean, this was our first real attempt at this, and I think the list came out good. And I think like if we did it again later, I know like the point system you and I talked about, like when everything was kind of tallied, some things did get a little wonky. I think like if we were to do this again, we maybe have a little bit more constraints about like how to break up individual sections, like forcing me to go ahead and be a little bit maybe more specific about Hellboy or things like that. But I think it was good. Like I think as a first attempt, I think we did really good, and especially in comparison to I don't know, man. You and I looked at like 10 lists each of things online. Oh man, there's some really bad lists
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
So I think we did really good.
I do too. I was really adamant that it wouldn't be just we get the lists and then in the last stage we just make up whatever we want and move things around. I did not want that to
Yeah.
be the case. Um, but yeah, if I've said that before in a couple of these videos too. If anyone who goes online and looks up best superhero lists, it's a sad state of affairs out there. And
Yeah.
you know, I think mostly it's because most of those lists are made either by people who haven't read very many comics,
Mm-hmm.
um, like in total,
Mm-hmm.
or B, they've only read superhero comics, and you really get
Mm-hmm.
sort of an insular view. Um, you mentioned early on when we were talking about this, you mentioned getting excited by seeing everyone else's lists.
Yeah.
Um, we had a Google Doc where people could put up drafts of their lists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, were you utilizing that as a resource to try to think of more titles and jog your memory, or did you feel like you had a pretty set view on what you were going to do?
I mean, I there were a couple lists that we initially got, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, this list is so interesting. You got to
Mm-hmm.
read it." So I looked at that,
Shout
and
out
it
to
was just
Gary
like
Etcher.
really, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just like it's one of those things where it's really interesting to see where people come from. Are they going to like go like really old school, or are they going to go like more modern? I mean, honestly, Stardust did 10 times better than I ever thought it was going to. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
it on my list,
Yeah.
but I thought it was going to go ahead and be a lot more middling than it actually did. Um, so it was just really fun to see where people went, and especially like I'm not the biggest Captain America fan, and I know there's a lot more people that were Captain America fans. Um, and honestly, I didn't realize how little of a Captain America fan I was until I saw the list.
Yeah.
So like all of that was very interesting for me to reflect on. And like as you and I were talking before, like the list process, especially to make me realize I love comics and I love all kinds of comics, but it's strange during this process to realize that like I prefer superheroes in a different medium than comics, which shouldn't it doesn't feel like should be right for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it is true now. Like I know that about myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't remember what prompted it, but Brad Curry, it might have been for his personal statement, or maybe I can't remember where he said it, but he basically said they're the superhero comics really only work in or superheroes only really work in comics, and you came to the exact opposite conclusion. Um, and
Yeah.
uh, and obviously, I probably tend towards more what Brad says.
Hmm.
Um, Probably because Brad and I are much more dismissive of the genre in general, but while we both still have plenty of superhero comics we think highly of, and
Yeah.
we made lists. I mean, I easily made a list. I wasn't one of these people who thought, oh, I can't get to 100. It was very easy for me to have 150 options to then kind
Yeah.
of parse through. Um, did making this list prompt you to go reread anything, to go dig around, or did you just sort of go off your memories and your gut?
I mean, I did reread a whole bunch of things, and like, I mean, you and I talked about very early on what series was going to be on my list, and then I cut it. Do you
Mhm.
remember what series that was?
I don't.
Bloodlines, baby.
Oh shit, that should have been on your list.
It should have been on my list. Like, the problem for me is I started getting so esoteric, being like, oh, I can't include Bloodlines. It's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of
Yeah,
love everything about it, even though it's so bad.
yeah,
But I can't put it on my list.
yeah. I had a few that
Oh,
I revisited and was like, ah, shit, that's too bad. It wasn't as good as I remembered it being. Um, yeah. Were there other things like that where you changed your opinion on them?
yeah. I mean, what was it? I mean, there was a bunch of like early McFarlane stuff. Like I remember really liking back in the '90s, and then having not read forever,
Sure.
and then not including it. I can't remember if I included. Um, no, I did include. I did include like the Wendigo stuff from McFarland, which I
Hmm.
just think is like some of the best Wolverines ever looked. Like I know
Hmm.
it's crazy looking,
Yeah.
and like the thing that was interesting was like kind of going back in our conversation, like when I was looking at other lists people had done, the thing that I didn't like is it felt like a lot of the material out there in lists was either like, hey, I have a complete nostalgia for it, but I haven't reread it at all, so I'm just going to put it on my list, or visually this is amazing, but I don't care about the writing at all. And I was trying to go for a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Bloodlines fits both. I think it looks cool and it's nostalgic, but it's not good.
Yeah. I guarantee you would have been the only voter for that title. Not that that's bad. I mean, I think all of us had things on our lists where we were the only people that voted for them.
Yeah.
Um, um, Including two guys who voted for their number ones didn't even make the list. Gary Escher and Brad Curry, who I've mentioned already in this live stream. Um, how did you feel about the top 10, top 20? Did you feel that it was too conventional? Do you feel like we just landed on the right titles?
I feel like both of those things are true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I do feel it was very conventional,
Mm-hmm.
and I do feel like they were the right choices. Um, and frankly speaking, like it's a little shocking that our top 10 wasn't the top 10 for a lot of other lists online. Like I feel like I've seen a lot of lists where it's like some random like Avengers comic is like the number one. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's true,
Mm-hmm.
but it's cool that you think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in our top 10, I'll read them real quick for anyone out there who hasn't seen the issue. Watchmen, number one. Kirby's Fantastic Four, Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, Ditko's Spider Man, All Star Superman, Claremont and Burns' Uncanny X-Men, Kirby's Fourth World, Miracle Man, and Frank Miller's Daredevil. Um, a couple of these I might have been surprised just because of how the different ages played off each other.
Mhm.
I don't know who the youngest person in the list makers were. I think it might be around 35 or so, and the
Yeah.
oldest is probably in the early 60s. So that's a decent range of
Mhm.
readers. Um, so like Claremont and Burns X-Men scoring so high, that really feels like something that would have been very true 30 years ago. But I'm a
Yeah.
little surprised it did so well this time around for
Yeah.
our group. Um, and I was looking at this is kind of like the master, sort of a master list. Um, yeah, Claremont and Burns X-Men was on 10 out of 11 ballots. Um, was in two top tens. I mean, so it did very, very well on the list.
Mhm.
Um, Only Watchmen, Fantastic Four, All Star Superman, and Claremont's X-Men. Those are the only four that were on at least 10 ballots.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. I was not surprised All Star Superman did well. I was very surprised it did that well. Number 6.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one I should have gone back and reread, but like it was so impactful for me.
mhm.
Um, I think it might have been one of the first two things I read by Grant Morrison, and I was just like, "Who is this person?" And then Frank Quietly, I mean, impeccable artist.
Mhm.
So like, even though I really should have gone back and reread it, it was just such an impactful comic for me. I couldn't even fathom not including it.
Yeah, I mean, I included it as well. I did reread it before I put it on here. I put it at 73, which I thought was about right, obviously, because that's where I put it. Um, and but I was not surprised. It even had a number one vote, so it had a really strong support.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it did have a number one vote. Um, and the only title that had more than one number one was Watchmen. The other
Yeah.
9 people all had different titles. And let's talk about your number one, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, the correct choice. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Correct choice. One of 13 Alan Moore titles to make the list,
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
which is pretty crazy. I voted for 10 Alan Moores, and I thought that might be excessive, but clearly I underestimated his popularity. So yeah, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. What made that your number one?
Yeah. So many reasons. Like, I understand it's a problematic comic, but damn, like, I will say, I remember back in college, I had stopped reading comics for a long time. And I was in college, and one of the people that was on my dorm was like, "Have you ever read this Alan Moore guy? He did this thing called League of Extraordinary Gentlemen." And I went down to my college library, and I did like an interlibrary loan, and I got it, and I read it. And I think I read, ironically, I got the second volume before the first volume,
Mm.
because that was the one that was available. And I was like, I grew up reading comics, and I was one of those people where I got like a bunch of comics from the thrift store, and like jumping around was kind of what I was used to as a kid. It was very rare that I got to read like something as a continuous trade or concept or something like that. So it was like volume two, sure, whatever. And like reading that volume two, like I loved the Island of Dr. Moreau when I was a kid. So like the fact that that was in there, the fact that like War of the Worlds was in there, like that spoke to me. Kevin O'Neill, I remember when I was a kid, one of the comics I would pick up from thrift stores was occasionally there would be an issue of martial law. And even though martial law, I was too young to read it. I was too young to understand it. But I was like, this stuff is crazy. The colors are amazing. Um, like I'm the right age for Rob Liefeld and like his huge guns. Kevin O'Neill, his guns are bigger and they're better. So it's like it was perfect for me. And so like I really credit that book for bringing me back into comics and like just never stopping from that point. Um, and even though it was a series, it definitely dipped at times. Um, I really liked where they went with it. I loved kind of like they took it more Lovecraftian at times. They took it in so many different directions, and I love the series because of how it can deconstruct. Honestly, like now, I also think back to top 10. Like in terms of superhero comics, I do think League of Extraordinary Gentlemen top 10 are my true favorite Alan Moore superhero comics.
Mhm.
Watchmen's fantastic, and it will be always be what it is. But I just remember those two comics just being so inviting and just being so wacky. And I love that like wacky, surreal superhero kind of take, which is maybe why I enjoy certain TV shows now.
Was that the first Alan Moore comic you had read, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
100%.
That's interesting. I have a question here from Donald. Is Hitman a superhero? I think that was what the last hero series I read all the way through. I still remember it fondly. I definitely think that's a superhero comic, Donald.
Mhm.
In fact, a guy I know asked if it was on the list. I had to tell him no, and thankfully, no other Garthenists made it either. Oh man, here's Brad Curry making maybe his first appearance in the comments ever.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you for all you do for Canon, Alex. Your piece on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen being a parody of British imperialism was an angle I hadn't thought about. Um, Brad, thanks for joining us.
I mean, dude, if I'd included Bloodlines, I would have covered Hitman. What's wrong with me?
That's right.
I should have done Bloodlines.
That's right. Well, that's an interesting first Alan Moore comic, that's for sure. Top 10 scored very high on our final list. Number 13. I think that surprised a few of us. I knew that was a comic that had a lot of fans. I mean, including me. I love the comic too, but I had a lot of
Yeah.
supporters. But that is probably the first one that jumps out as a holy shit that got that high. I think to someone who would randomly come across the list, that would be the first one you'd go, wow, that's kind of a surprise. Followed right on its heels by Supreme, another Alan Moore title.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's they're totally different ways of looking at superhero comics than something like Watchmen, which is the more sort of accepted classic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, League and Top 10 go in just completely different directions. I think really shows Moore's versatility, that he's sort of penciled in as a dark, grim and gritty guy, or a total destructionist, but or deconstructionist, not destructionist. Yeah. No, I'm sure there's people who think that too.
I mean, he is the downfall of Western civilization. I thought we already knew that.
Yes. Well, that would be the opinion of the writer you mentioned earlier, Grant Morrison. So yeah, Morrison did pretty well. Morrison had, I think, 7 titles on the final list. Mm-hmm. Gary Escher is here as well. He's seconding something. Maybe it's about Alan Moore.
I think it was your comment about Grant Morrison.
And here's Brad. Silly thing I've been wondering, is Top 10 a superhero comic? If everyone has powers, does that mean it's just a cop story? I think both things are true. I think it is a superhero comic, and I think that's kind of probably what Alan Moore is getting at, right? If you take away what makes the superhero special, then are these characters still special? And also, I mean, is there a better cop procedural in the history of comics than Top 10?
I mean, that's the thing for me, is my wife loves procedurals. She watches all of those. I can't stand cop procedurals. I really can't. And like, the problem is that, like, when someone breaks the rule and makes it so good, like, I just gotta stand up and cheer. Like, Top 10 is that good. I mean, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's cop procedural for the most part,
kind of,
but it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, because it's so good. The characters are great. You really feel for all of them. They feel real. And like, I think the same thing is true with Top 10. Like, I loved how Alan Moore played with time. Like, you got prequel stories, so you got to see the Chief, what he was like when he was young, and like how he morphed and how he became the leader he was. Like, that's the thing that Alan Moore's so good at, is just like, you get a sense of like who the character is, why you should root for them, whether they're a villain like Ozymandias or like whether there's someone else. I mean, like, he's just so incredible at that. And I don't know. I think, like, going back to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, like, all these characters are flawed. And even though some of them are terrible, like, it really spoke to me that, like, you could make a character as horrendous as Hyde and still have them be interesting.
Yeah, I just you mentioned cop procedurals, and that made me, or maybe I did, but it made me think of Gotham Central. That was a title I was a little surprised. I didn't vote for it, but I was a little surprised it didn't make the list. I don't think it made your list either.
Oh, it did?
Oh, no, here it is, number 36.
100%.
Yeah. So I was a little surprised that didn't make it. We have a couple more comments here. One's from Gary.
Oh, hit it.
I wanted to thank Alex for making our weirdo writing look so classy. Yes,
it's been definitely so fun.
Did a great job on this issue, especially. And Ray Carcase is chiming in. We have 5 of us here at one time. That's pretty crazy. Hi, Ray. It's good to see you. So yeah, let's talk about actually putting the issue together. Since, unfortunately for you, you bear the weight of this, um, and have to then deal with me in the process. The whole idea, as I laid it out to you, was to try to mirror the old journal issue,
Yeah.
as much as we could. I wasn't
Yeah.
obsessive about it, but I wanted there to be wanted to count down. We wanted to have write-ups about every title. That was very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's really all I was talking about as far as mirroring the old list.
Yeah.
How was it finding images? How was it kind of was it fun? Was it a pain in the ass? Was it aggravating? Like
It was all of those things. It was just like one of those things where when I was trying to find images, it would be the series that inspired me wasn't always the thing that I could find a good image. Like I struggled so hard for BPRD because so much of BPRD and the artists that worked on it, I feel lend themselves to having really interesting panel layouts, but makes it a little bit difficult to like pull an image that I thought would be striking on its own, or that I could actually fit within the size of the format. Versus like Savage Dragon, I've told you I've read like a couple issues of Savage Dragon, and the ones that I have read were like back in the day, and I was like, a superhero cop procedural, cool.
cop procedural in the loosest of quotes. I don't
Oh,
know what kind of
oh,
police work they're doing.
absolutely. But I mean, the last time I read Savage Dragon was probably like in 1994.
Sure.
Like truly, like
Yeah, he had a
and it was a lot more than that. Yeah, yeah.
He
And
wasn't
so
doing
it
any
was,
police work, but he had a uniform.
but I mean, the thing that was cool about it is like the images I could find for Savage Dragon were fun, and like the image I found for that was like, oh my gosh, like I
Yeah,
know it's one of your favorite things, and so the fact that I could find an image that I hoped you'd be jazzed about, I was like, winner.
yeah,
So it was really cool, like going through and trying to find things. Like the classic Plastic Man is like one of my favorite things of all time. I think it looks incredible, but trying to find an image I could cut out and work within the space that we had was so hard. Or even trying to find an image that was high enough quality where I could use it in the magazine was horrendous. So it was really interesting. I think the pieces that were more significant for me were harder to find, and the ones that I wasn't as connected to, I felt like I found better pieces because it was almost like I wasn't as precious, but in being less precious, I could be more creative. So it was a really interesting process in like trying to find the images and making it work.
yeah. I felt like on a couple. I felt like for a lot of the series, you'd kind of grab things no problem. The couple
Mhm.
of things I thought would be tougher were the ones that were those long continuing series from 40 years ago, the Legion of Superheroes, the Avengers, the Captain America,
Yeah.
where it's like, what do you grab? How are you sure it's something that's, the one I remember, I think the very last one that we went round about was the Supreme image, where you had a piece of Rob Liefeld art, and I kept
Yeah.
asking you, are you sure? Just because it was Rob Liefeld and he wasn't really an artist on the Alan Moore version. Um,
Yeah.
but thankfully you had remembered where you got it, and you said, yeah,
Mhm.
this is definitely from that. I was like, okay, that's all we need to
Yeah.
know.
Because it's
Um,
covered the trade that I have. I was
yeah,
like, oh yeah, this is the one.
yeah. It's just so easy with some of these older comics to know you've got the right artist.
Yeah.
We went through this on when we did the Canon annual,
Mhm.
trying to find so many images. Um, got a nice note here from Ray. I wondered if Alex really existed sometimes. LOL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, in every issue of Canon it says Alex has wisely avoided a social media presence. Um, and but I assure you, Ray, that if I was doing the design of these zines, they would look like a ransom note from a serial killer. So thank God Alex is doing them. Um, So this is I mean, this issue turned out as a hefty package,
Yeah.
Um, we had personal statements, we had, some stats, but
Real
almost the
quick,
entire
Colin,
thing.
can I
Yeah,
reveal one thing before we go down this route?
please go.
I know I already told you, but I don't think any of the other contributors know. One of my favorite little Easter eggs is so each of the pages has a different watermark, and I picked a watermark that would match one of the two titles on the page.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite watermark I did was there is one page where there's both a Superman comic and a Will Eisner Spirit comic on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found an image where Will Eisner had drawn Superman and the Spirit on the same page. And
Oh
so the
wow.
watermark actually has both characters, and it's the only time that happens. And I was so pleased. And I'm a big Will Eisner fan. Colin, I know you are too. Like,
Yeah,
you're probably like the number two Will Eisner fan.
that's right. Yeah, that's me.
But yeah, like that was really fun. Like there was like I tried to put as many things as I could into it, and I had a lot of fun with like the creative exploration of everything.
Yeah, that's you put watermarks on everything that we do, more or less. Um, and I know that's mostly for your own edification. I don't know how much anyone else notices them. Um, you know, when it comes to doing something like this with having to lay out each one, I mean, there's 100 entries, and then there's other stuff in the issue as well. Yeah, I guess we talked about this a little bit about what makes it fun, but yeah, it's just amazing. It would probably been very easy just to make a template and do the exact same thing every single time and squeeze a picture in every single one, and you did not take that route. I would say there's actually probably fewer titles that just have a rectangle, as the
Yeah,
image.
yeah.
Were there times where you thought, man, I should just be doing rectangles here? I should just have covers or, you know, whole
Yeah,
pages and not mess with trying to do
a
cool
hundred
images.
percent. And then you find an image like the Miss Fury page. Miss Fury, like when I discovered that that comic existed, I was just like, why is this woman not known? Like it blew my mind. And like the image that I found that she drew, it's it's a top 10 superhero image in my opinion. Like it just does such a great job of contrasting the person with the hero, the alternate ego or the alternate identity. And I was
Mhm.
just like, yeah, when you find something like that and you take the time to cut it out, it's so worth it.
Yeah, I love the juxtaposition. I'll try to hold this up. I'm terrible at this way of being on YouTube. But so down here is the image Alex is talking about. There's the Miss Fury, which is a really gorgeous image, and you can see how it's laid out with the article. I love that right above it is a Captain America comic, and kind of like a generic Captain America comic. And I say that as a fan of this series,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I love that that those are juxtaposed against each other. And in fact, that's what I love about the entire list. Really, is the juxtaposition, one thing after the other. Ray says he notices the watermarks. They're very subtle, but add something with a little bit of salt.
Yeah.
And Brad, he's chiming in. The watermarks add a ton to make the pages in canon look more interesting than plain text on a white page.
Yeah.
Which you are correct, Brad. I yeah, this is not meant as a slight on anyone else who does this kind of stuff. There's a bunch of other people making cool zines. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of them. I'm always showing Alex these things whenever I get them. But
Yeah. Super inspiring.
the visual element I think that you provide to these publications is something that isn't always apparent in these other
Yeah.
zines, though. And within our limited means, obviously, right? We're not,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're not professionals that this is our day job. We're doing it in our spare time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gary says that Miss Fury image really pops, and it does. I think it's one of the best images in the whole zine.
Mhm.
And you know, for a comic that I'm sure quite a few of the list makers had never even heard of, and certainly hadn't read.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I think I already know what you're going to say to this, so it's probably a boring question. But how did you do? You feel like the overall project was a success? Do you feel like we started talking about this probably 2 years ago?
That's
I mean,
true.
a year and a half, 2 years ago. I mean, it was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Over a year and a half ago, because I remember us
I
talking
think you
about it
brought
a
it up
couple
at your
summers
old
ago.
house.
Yeah, a couple summers ago, we talked about
Yeah.
it the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time. So this has been a long time in the evolution
Mhm.
of our making zines and doing this stuff together.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the final product? Was there anything about the project that didn't work for you?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm super pleased with how it turned out. I mean, I've told you, Colin, like, we've been like, you know, walking around in the dark, trying to figure out printing, figuring out how
Yeah,
things will turn out.
sure.
Uh, I discovered that I had somehow turned on a feature. Like, one of the big reveals is that I tried to make this as cheaply as possible. So everything's laid out in Microsoft Word,
Mhm.
which I will say one comics professional found out that I did that. And he told you, Colin, that's crazy. And it is crazy. I might be the best person I know at Microsoft Word now
Yeah, I bet.
because of that, and I know a lot of people. Um, but like I just found out recently that when I go ahead and make the file for printing, that the conversion that I use actually has been degrading some of the images. So, like, I'm not doing that anymore. But I was really pleased with how crisp most of the images turned out. I did a lot of effort to upscale a lot of the images or use other filters to try to make them look better than some of the original images that I found. So yeah, I'm very pleased because Colin knows a lot of times I'm very critical of how things turn out because I am trying to constantly improve what I'm making and trying to learn from it. And yeah, I'm really pleased, and I think we did a good job. Like I'm proud of the list. Like I think it's a lot better than a lot of the other stuff that you see online. So I'm feeling good, man.
Would obviously you might not want to hand this list to just some random person who doesn't read comics.
Mhm.
But if someone came to you and said they were interested in reading superheroes, God, I don't know why, but let's say they
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
Um, Brad Brad Curry, who's here in the chat, he has a young coworker, like you know how old he said she was, maybe like 23, and
yeah,
she's reading superhero comics, and he's sort of perplexed, like why the fuck? And you have
yeah,
like a student, you said the same thing that they like
yeah.
reading superheroes. It's very
Well, I
surprising.
mean, the
Um,
the the really cool thing is, so I've been talking to Colin because I've been talking with one of my students. I'm a math teacher at the high school level, and one of my students who is originally from outside the country, I've been talking with her, and just like she's really um, been enjoying like the Greg Rucka Wonder Woman. She's been really enjoying the Absolute Wonder Woman and like really she's been learning a lot about like mainstream superheroes. It's been really fun to talk to her about it. And like I'm just going to do it. Colin, we've been talking about our love of Tom King, the greatest comic book writer of all time.
yeah, surprised he didn't dominate this list. I was afraid he might. I was afraid he might.
Oh, and I'm sorry everyone, I am very sarcastic. Tom King's written some fun stuff for me. I honestly think uh, his Batman meets the Looney Tunes is legitimately really fun comics. A lot of his other stuff, not the biggest fan of, which Colin and I have discussed at length. I'm sorry, Colin.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's been really fun talking with like younger readers because um, it's been really eye-opening to like, oh yeah, that's like some of the things you're talking about. That's what brought me into comics. Like that sense of adventure. Like I remember when I was a kid, um, I found an issue of Kazar and I was like, what is this? This is the dumbest name. But like I enjoyed the hell out of that comic as a kid. I remember there was just like a random Superman issue where he goes to Atlantis, and like I'd never seen Atlantis show up in a DC comic, and it was kind of magical as a kid because even though it wasn't the best written comic, the artist did a fun job with it. Like I don't know, there is something really cool about like talking with younger readers because it can be inspiring.
Would you hand this list to somebody like that? Or do you think that this list would be more useful to someone who's already immersed in superheroes or, familiar with superheroes?
Yeah, I think it's a good list. I'd be willing to hand it to someone, but also, like, I mean, you know me, Colin. I don't like imposing on people, so I don't want to ever be like, "Hey, here's a list for you,"
Mm-hmm.
because that's just not my personality type.
Well, I
But
mean, you wouldn't be saying this is the only list. You would just be saying here's a guidepost. I mean, if
oh
you
yeah,
if you buy a movie guide, if you buy an old Roger Ebert movie guide where he has ratings, you don't have to just only watch the 4-star reviews. I mean, you could watch
oh
whatever you
sure.
want. So, but yeah, I wonder how accessible something like this would be to somebody who's not already part of the tribe, if that makes sense.
I mean, the thing that's nice about our list is I do feel that you can find most of these comics. They're approachable comics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't find them easily in print, you can find them online for the most part.
Well,
Like,
are they approachable in a reading sense as well? Like you can find a copy of Watchmen, but there's a lot of
yeah.
debate all the time online. There's a lot of debate about whether Watchmen is something you should hand a new reader or not.
Oh, I don't think you should hand Watchmen to a brand new reader. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Watchmen was one of the first comics I read after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to read something truly embarrassing about myself. I just ignored all of the pros in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for the longest time.
That's
And
interesting.
I'm one of those people. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this seems like a slog. And when it came to reading Watchmen, I kept being like, wait, why do I want to read this like file that is like interspersed in here? Like I realized the brilliance of it, and I do like the fact that Alan Moore didn't shy away from using different media within comics to go ahead and highlight what is possible. But as a new reader, I was just like very confused, and I think a majority of people could handle reading Watchmen, but I don't think a majority of people would enjoy it nor necessarily get as much out of it, especially as one like the first comic trades you hand them.
Sure.
I think Bloodlines is a much more approachable comic. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Well, it was made for 10-year-olds, so probably
Yeah,
13-year-olds. Probably 13-year-olds.
yeah, yeah.
Have a
And me.
comment here. Have a comment here from Ray. Alex saying shares the same love of Tom King I do. I already like him. I think Ray is more of a Tom King hater than you are, but at least, and I say that as a fellow Tom King hater, but at least Alex knows it varies. Basically got questions from two people here. They're pretty much the same question. This is from Rex Roca 1. Alex, did your student watch DC Comics cartoons growing up? And did they read manga before? And Brad says, Alex, did your student watch DC cartoons growing up or read manga? So
Yeah.
They're on the same wavelength there. So yeah, that's people are interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. My understanding, based on my conversations with her, is no, she didn't read. Sorry, she read a little bit of manga, and then cartoons. No, like no real exposure on that front.
Sure. Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to ask her tomorrow, which I'm like really curious about. No, I think it was really interesting. Like she's dived like deep real quick, which was exactly how I did it. Like when I was reading comics in college, it was kind of like I never really found interesting stuff at the library in terms of comics when I was growing up. And so all of a sudden it was like, wait, I can get Alan Moore? Okay, I guess I'll read more of this guy's stuff. And then I found Grant Morrison. I found who were some other people? I mean, Kevin O'Neill, I'm a big fan. So I got the hardcover collection DC put out of his stuff pretty quickly. Um, yeah.
Okay. Ray says 3 of my 100 were Tom King books, believe it or not. I know that was a surprise, Ray. I know you're a Vision and Omega Man fan. I can't remember what the other one you voted for was. And then Brad follows up. Why read Watchmen when you could read Tom King's The Vision? I regret not talking trash in that book on my talk with Colin. I have not read that one, Brad, so I would not have been able to participate with you. I did read Mr. Miracle and fucking hated it with a passion. Oh, yeah, here's one. So I guess you and Ray really are on the same wavelength. The Elmer Fudd Batman book. Yeah.
It's good.
Right. Is it the end of Ray's list? I remember now.
Yeah. I actually, could we like throw a question out to the audience?
Sure.
So Mega Men is one of the books where I got halfway through it and I stopped.
Which one? Oh, Mega Men.
Yeah. And I have no real Green Lantern connection. I just kept getting told, this is a good book. This is a good book. Read it.
Sure.
And I found it very difficult to approach. So I'm kind of curious, what did you enjoy about the book?
That'll be up to Ray to answer.
Yeah, I would love to hear his thoughts.
I picked up I haven't read it. I picked up the trade at one point, and probably because I remember Ray liking it. And I believe I had heard that the earlier Tom King was better. Before it all became about crying and aping Alan Moore and Keith Giffen as much as possible, which is kind of what he's turned into.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jeff Johns.
Yeah, that's a different ripping off of Keith Giffen and Alan Moore. Yeah, Ray, what did you like about Omega Men?
Because I've never heard someone who's passionate about it speak about it unless they have a real strong background in Green Lantern. And I think that's the reason why it didn't connect with me, is honestly, I didn't have enough background to really know the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I read the old Omega Men series from the 80s and 90s. I'm actually putting together a run right now. I've read a decent amount of Green Lantern comics. They're usually pretty bad, but I read a bunch when I was a kid because they were, you could find them in quarter bins, you know. But I even with all that, I would say I don't have much of an attachment to the Omega Men or you know, Ray says, I thought it was unique in that there is this religious cult in space and Kyle Rayner was treated well.
Interesting. I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Kyle Rayner is not a character. I mean, I pretty much, as soon as he was introduced as a Green Lantern, I was kind of done reading that title. I really got sick of everyone having to be killed, had their back broken, murder an entire city. It was the escalating catastrophes. I was kind of done at that point. But he was the Green Lantern for a long ass time. I want to ask you about so someone asked you about your student and that they watched those DC series.
Yeah.
Did you watch those series?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I know you watched like the old Batman the Animated Series.
Yep.
And
then the Justice League that spun off of that.
Okay.
And the Superman that was in that same kind of universe. Like all of those were huge for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't remember that Justice League cartoon, but a guy that I shared with you just maybe yesterday, a guy on YouTube, Ace Vane, who makes these incredible videos. I highly recommend them to anyone who just wants to laugh. But he uses all of these old, especially the DC cartoons, and he dubs them with his own dialogue. But all these cartoons I'm not familiar with. Like there's all of these Justice League cartoons that I don't even know exist. And I think, man, and like an entire generation of kids must have watched this shit, and
Yeah.
Makes it even sadder that they can't sell comics, that they had these things to indoctrinate kids. Between those and the movies, you would think these comics would be selling 150, 500,000 copies a month, but they apparently it only translates into people like you, who only wants to see superheroes in movies and cartoons, not in comics.
I mean, it was so interesting.
Those things.
I mean, what was so fascinating is I was talking with the same buddy and another friend that is my same age, and I'm 40 for context. And it was so interesting because, like, not superheroes per se, but again, you can make some arguments. But Naruto and Bleach, I never read it, never watched it as a kid. But if I'd maybe been 5 years younger, like, that could have been something. And that's a real cultural touchstone in comics and manga that, like, I don't know at all. Like, I'm the right age for Dragon Ball, and I really didn't watch that much of it when I was a kid. And I wish I had. I mean, like, talk about, like, an amazing comic artist. Like, those Dragon Ball comics, those are fun. Like, really great cartooning. I love what he did with, like how he designed buildings, how he designed faces, all that kind of stuff. Just looked really cool.
Here's where me being into comics longer than you almost flips our ages, and that I did read a bunch of Naruto.
Oh, you did?
I did when it first came out, and
whoa!
I did read some Toriyama. I read Sandland, and I read some Dragon Ball. Because I was not a manga expert by any means, but it was that first wave of manga. Well, actually, the first big wave, not the 80s wave, but like the 2000s wave. It was cheap and it was all over the place, and so you could just go pick up a book. A lot of those books were $8, I mean, you could try 100%. Stuff. So I read a ton of shit. Sometimes I'll see things and go, oh, I read that entire series and I forgot it even existed. So Dragon Ball's one that I was a little surprised didn't receive votes. Now that we mention it, that seems like it's pretty gigantic.
I mean, it's crazy. I was just having a conversation with a coworker of mine who's 25, and like, I wasn't prying for like superhero or anything like that, but he was like talking about his brother getting ripped like Vegeta, and I was like, of course I know Vegeta. Like, I think that, like, younger people, like, Vegeta is a much more like common touchstone than, like, if you were trying to talk about, like, oh, another cool green guy, Brainiac. I just don't think, like, people are going to know Brainiac, but they will definitely know Vegeta.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is.
He's cool. He's great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm more of a Brainiac guy. Yeah. I'm actually more of a Brainiac 5 guy because I'm a Legion.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. Well, Alex, is there anything else? Is there anything you wanted to complain about, get off your chest regarding the top 100 list of all time that you so carefully put together?
No, I mean, like, I had a great time. Like, if people have questions, I'm down to answer some questions if anyone was wondering about things. But no, it was good. And again, for all the people who are in the chat right now, I was really inspired by, like, your lists, and it was really fun. Yeah, I think, like, in some ways what's fascinating is I'm glad it's out in the world, but the creation was just so fun to, like, just hear what people were thinking, and then you and me bouncing ideas off of each other, you and me besmirching the name of certain creators that we think are maybe a little overrated. But I think the reflection's been really interesting. Wait, what did you say?
I said always. You always have to go after these guys. Yeah, no, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think, even though there are comics on here I can't stand, when it's comics I haven't read, I don't think anything on here is indefensible.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say that. Maybe some of the ones I haven't read I will think are indefensible when I get to them,
Yeah.
but I doubt it. I think they received votes from people I think are smart and have read a lot of
Mhm.
comics, and that's usually good enough for me to take them seriously. So
I will say, one thing I just thought of, and this is going to be a hot take. I am kind of surprised Kelly Jones, none of his comics made it.
what do you think
Because,
would have made it?
well, I know what I put on my list is not going to make it. All right, like, I knew it had no chance, but like I love Blood Rain in terms of
Yeah.
like in Elseworld comics. But it is interesting because based on the age group of a lot of the people that were making the list, I just kind of figured that Kelly Jones's art was kind of in the pocket for a lot of people. So I was just kind of surprised more of his stuff didn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the 90s stuff, there was a decent amount of 90s material on here,
Mm-hmm.
but 90s stuff. Like none of the image guy. I mean, Eric Larson, who's like the exception. He's the one guy who made it.
Mm-hmm.
No Sam Keefe,
Yeah.
no Kelly Jones.
Todd
Yeah, I
McFarlane
mean,
made it, didn't it?
what's that?
Didn't Todd McFarlane make it?
He did an issue and a half of Invasion, but I don't know that most people associate that with McFarlane. His
Oh, I
Spider-Man
thought his
didn't make it.
Amazing made it. I
No.
guess I was forgetting.
Yeah. So yeah, it kind of shows you not just the ages, but also the sensibilities for guys like you that would have maybe been the right age, who would have gone. And I was buying that stuff when it was coming out too.
Yeah.
It didn't stick with me. I mean, I dropped it pretty quick, and I think that's probably true of most of the voters as well. They just didn't take it very seriously. And um,
Fair.
when I talked to Jake Zalacki, he brought up the Max being surprised, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I've never read the Max, but I was a little surprised that it didn't make the list just because of it was a big comic and had a lot of fans, and it was taken more seriously than most Image titles were. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that whole sort of hot artist category did not fare well, and I think Kelly Jones kind of suffers from. Also, you would have pretty much had to vote for the Batman vampire stuff. I don't know that he
Mhm.
has. He did a Dead Man comic that I don't think
Yeah.
is too well read, and um, otherwise he just did some regular Batman comics, right? I mean,
Mhm.
um, were you surprised? Here's a random ass question, but I'll ask you because I know it was on your
Yeah.
list. Black Hammer by Jeff Lemire.
Yeah.
Um, were you surprised that didn't make it? I feel like in the last 10 years, people were pretty excited about that, but
Yeah.
not excited enough.
I think the thing about it is, I think it is one of the more interesting superhero deconstructions of any modern time that I can really think of. And I'm a big Jeff Lemire fan. I think he's just an amazing writer. I think the issue is that I'm not surprised because while it was good, I think in some ways it was also forgettable because he was trying to do so many things, like make comments on like easy comics, make comments on like Martian Manhunter, make comments about like all these different characters.
Yeah.
And I mean, like when I was talking with my wife really enjoys oh, what was the comic that he did with Emmy Lennox?
I don't know.
It's like yeah, it's a fun comic. It's basically like a superhero murder mystery.
Mhm.
And like I think he has a lot of really great takes on superheroes. His Animal Man uh is one of my favorite superhero comics of all time. I think the problem is that I'm not surprised because I think he does things well, but I think people read his work and then it kind of like they forget it relatively quickly, unfortunately.
That's probably true. I have a question here from Brad for you.
Hmm.
Um, Alex, do you have a favorite letterer? I really enjoyed your write ups and your descriptions of what you liked in the artwork.
Oh
Brad is
man.
really into lettering nowadays. So, um, Yeah. Do you have a favorite letterer? Do you have a
Man,
favorite font placer, as they are now?
yeah, no, that's such an interesting question because I feel when I think of lettering, I love really good old school hand lettered stuff. Like I think a lot of Wally Wood stuff when he was doing his own like writing on the board. That's always fun. Um, I'm a sucker these days for when I'm reading a superhero comic, just like really fun um exclamations being written out. I think oh shoot. Of course, I knew I was going to forget some name. Uh, who's the Simon Bisley?
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime Simon Bisley would go ahead and do lettering and have it just be so flamboyant, so over the top on the page, I love seeing what he would do. And I was telling you, Colin, I got to see an original Simon Bisley page when I was down at San Diego, the one and only time I've ever been, and it was so illuminating. Just like the care and the craft he put into the page was really cool. So like Simon Bisley, Kevin O'Neill, when he would do like big things. I think a lot of like my favorite lettering is actually like the old Rebellion stuff, the 2000 AD stuff from like the 80s and 90s. Like they were just doing really fun and interesting things. Um, I really wish I could remember. There was someone I was reading recently. The comic itself was okay, but the lettering was incredible. Like they were doing this really interesting thing where when someone was whispering, they took the lettering and I think it was digital, but they basically like scraped over so that like the words were harder to read to like imply that like it's hushed, it's quieted.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, I really wish I could remember what comic that was, but I was really inspired by that. So yeah, anyone who like really goes for it and is trying something with lettering, I'm a fan of.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it there.
Oh
I want
yeah.
to thank, let's see who all was here. Donald Rex, Gary Escher, Brad Curry, Ray Carcases. Thank you, all the list makers here. Rex Roca, my friend Josh here in the comments being a jokester. And Alex, thank you so much for agreeing to come on and do this with me. I have to haul you in again. We'll do this sort of thing and shoot the shit
Oh
about
hell yeah.
something else, something non superheroes that we can talk about. But otherwise, thank you for doing this, and thank you to everybody out there watching.
Hell yeah, dude. This is a great time.
All right.